Woke deprogramming. Have you ever heard of it? Well, now it is actually a real thing. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in today's education news article. This is coming to us straight from Oklahoma City's own News 9. The headline reads, "New set of testing for woke, quote unquote, educators relocating to Oklahoma." The subheading says Oklahoma State Superintendent Ryan Walters says teachers coming from woke quote unquote states will have to complete a new assessment before they can teach in the state. This was published on July 10th, 2025. Now, I had to double take the first time I read this headline. As a matter of fact, this is not the first time that I have tried to film this particular video because I laughed so hard just reading this article. I could not believe what I was reading because, as the headline says, you can't make this stuff up. Woke assessments designed to essentially deprogram or rule out certain teachers who are coming from other states, which some would consider woke or liberal, I guess. But let's go ahead and get straight into this article so you can see exactly why I found this article so crazy, in my opinion. And this guy, Ryan Walters, now look, all due respect to Ryan Walters, okay? Let me just point that out here at the beginning. I'll get into that a little bit more later. But so the article here says, teachers planning to join the education system in Oklahoma will now have to take a special type of assessment. The testing targets instructors coming from California and New York. Oklahoma State Superintendent Ryan Walters says the goal is to keep classrooms a place of learning and not indoctrination. Walters said the testing is for teachers coming from woke states. The Oklahoma State Department of Education and PragerU are currently working on the assessment and said it will focus on 3 areas: knowledge of the Constitution, American exceptionalism, biological differences between boys and girls. So yes, it is exactly as you expected. They are creating a test that some teachers coming from California, New York, possibly other states will have to take in order to become a teacher in Oklahoma. Now, this is unheard of. From everything that I've read concerning education news and vetting teachers, you got to take a background check and take all these other measures, but having a assessment designed specifically to, test how woke you are or potentially try to deprogram you from woke ideology has never been done. And I think that it's crazy. Like I said, when I first read this article, I have not laughed so hard in the past few weeks. And reading the statement from Ryan Walters, I busted out laughing. And I'm going to show you exactly what he said here because it is posted right here in the article. So it says here, why do educators from California and New York have to take this assessment? And here's what Walter says. We do not want woke Marxist teachers from California coming in here to teach our kids to hate our country. Teaching kids there's 27 genders, said Walters. They're teaching that there's no difference between the 2 genders. That's absurd. That's not true. They're going to lie to our kids and try to indoctrinate them with that kind of nonsense. All right? I can't tell if he's being hyperbolic or not when he says 27 genders, talking about it being absurd. But, this and Marxist teachers, all this stuff, he clearly, he is unabashedly, unapologetically expressing his beliefs here. And honestly, I'm not surprised because if you have read anything or know anything about Oklahoma and its education system and the superintendent Ryan Walters and some of the other things that he has done and said, this comes at no shock to you, most likely. And if you're in Oklahoma, you're probably just like, yep. So let's take a look at just a few other things just to give you an idea So this is Ryan Walters here himself. Now, this guy clearly is a conservative Christian, not based on his appearance, but because of some of the other things that he has done. For example, it says here that Oklahoma, this is another news report, Oklahoma school superintendent, Bibles will be in classrooms despite lack of funding. This was published on May 21st, 2025. Now, it was a big deal in the news a while back that in Oklahoma, Ryan Walters wanted to have Bibles in every classroom, and he was going to use, I believe, taxpayers' money and all this funding to do that. And I think some of it got denied or whatnot, but this shows you where he stands. He's a conservative Christian that wants Bibles in the classrooms. And this was kind of coming out during around the same time that in Louisiana they were saying that the Ten Commandments were going to it was going to be a requirement that the Ten Commandments would be on classroom walls. Now, another article here goes a little bit further, and this is from Baptist News Global, saying that Oklahoma Supreme Court blocks Bible curriculum for now. And reading this article, it was unclear whether or not it was just the Bibles being put in classrooms that they were talking about, or if there was an actual Bible curriculum that Ryan Walters wanted to implement. But either way, this shows you where he stands. And so this news article here about this woke testing, trying to require teachers coming from California and New York, maybe other places, to take this, it is not surprising at all. Is not surprising at all, in my opinion. And so what do I think about this? Well, honestly, I don't have too much to say on it. And like I said, Ryan Walters, all due respect to him for standing up for what he believes in. Some would say that I'm a conservative Christian. I don't like to label myself as such. I think that I am a political centrist. If anything, I am a Christian. I think that I'm also an ELA teacher, and I believe in having resources and literature in school. And I think that, hey, it's great to have the Bible in schools. Should you also have the Quran? Should you also have the Book of Mormon? Possibly. That's something that I would put in the library. Even though I am a Christian, I do have a Quran, I believe, somewhere, and I have a Book of Mormon to go through it and study it myself so that I can learn what I truly believe in. I try to research and read all texts so that I can understand where other people are coming from. And so when it comes to Bibles being in schools, inherently not necessarily a bad idea. This woke testing, look, I don't know. Well, I will say this about Ryan Walters. Ryan Walters is one of those guys that I would love to sit down and chat with because it seems like he's the type of guy that has a lot of ideas. Kind of like he reminds me of Jordan Peterson or some of these other guys out there that just have these philosophies of life and kind of go on and write books and talk about the meaning of life and all this stuff. Ryan Walters seems like one of those kinds of guys, and he clearly has some ideas that go against the grain. And he's just someone I would love to sit down with, interview, and ask, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about the Constitution? Is this fair? I would ask him some follow-up questions to this, like, is it really a problem? Teachers from California and New York coming in, like, is there a big insurgence? Are you seeing a spike in teachers from those areas? And do you really think that teachers from those areas are going to want to teach in Oklahoma? Like, is this all just a ploy to like scare people off from moving to Oklahoma? Like, what is the deal behind this? Because honestly, I really don't know. In this kind of assessment, is this like, is it discriminatory in some way? I couldn't tell you. I'm not a lawyer, but it seems a little strange. And I think that if teachers from New York and California are having to take it, I think everybody should have to take this assessment if you're going to roll something out like this. But it's crazy. He's talking about how teachers coming in and teaching gender ideology and stuff is absurd. I mean, some would say that this is absurd. Honestly, I think that this is a little crazy, a little out there. just unheard of. And so maybe that's why, but I could be wrong. On it, and truly, that's all I have to say on this. And I'm wondering, what do you think about this news story? Woke assessments for teachers in order to teach in the state. And to be clear, it doesn't exactly say whether or not teachers will be denied based on these tests. I'm not exactly sure. There's more news coming out on this, I'm sure, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think that teachers really need a woke assessment? Are you from Oklahoma? What do you think about this? Is this whole story just crazy? Let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you for watching this video. Remember, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I've got more educational content, especially news stories coming your way, so check back later on. That's all I have for you today. See you in the next one.